I got a Google sheet here called Coronavirus Special Project Tracking. So it's 125 lines long, rows long. And these are all the campaigns we're just launching today and tomorrow. And so we'll launch that program for that restaurant. It'll go out today and tomorrow. And by Monday, I'm pretty confident we'll have him back up in the $1,500 range because we've built that specific location has a 7,800 person database that we've built.
That's the point right there, right? Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Spotlight Sessions. Today, I'm joined by Matt Plapp. Matt is a veteran marketer, CrossFitter, author, speaker, consultant, coach, and founder and CEO of ROI Experts, which is a monster agency that focuses on the restaurant space. Matt, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Matt, you're a man after my own heart. I tell people this all the time. I think restaurant marketing is so much fun. I don't know how big your agency actually is. Can you share with us a little bit about where you guys are at?
Yeah, so we've got number of restaurants north of 200. Been around since 2008. Changed my focus up when I got to 2015. I was 34 clients from 31 industries, and it was me and one employee. And I was selling Matt Plapp, and it was good money, but it was nonstop. It was 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, 7 days a week. Like right now with what's going on with coronavirus, my phone, my email, I would have been inundated with life. But now we've got, I don't know what we have now, 13 employees, 10 or 15 VAs, a handful of subcontractors. That's kind of where we're at now.
So that's really interesting. And we'll definitely come back around to Corona, but I didn't know that you started out working in all different industries. Talk to me about that process of going from working with everything to focusing laser tight on a niche.
It was tough. And honestly, I wouldn't have gotten there had I not done it the other way. And I tell people all the time, I coach a lot of agencies. And I told an agency the other day, it was a buddy of mine who's all stressed about going. We went on a ski trip. He's all stressed about a vertical. I'm like, screw a vertical until you figure out that it's right for you.
Yeah.
Do a vertical product. Because the problem I had was that when I started my agency in 2008. So I started my agency in the spring of 2008 before the financial collapse. I also at the same time owned a boat and RV dealership, which collapsed harder than shit that summer. I lost about $400,000 cash that summer. I lost upwards of $2 million in liquidity because of the business. But it is what it is. You live and you learn. But I started my agency in the spring of 2008 helping people post on Facebook. Back then it was literally, Matt, how do you post on Facebook? I don't know how to do this for my business. I'm like, okay, pay us $500 a month. We'll make 3 posts a week for you. We'll answer any questions. That was what it was. Mm-hmm. And we create the page. And so when I did that, I started, I saw an opportunity. Well, then within probably 6 months, because I also had a side hustle after the radio station or after the boat and RV dealership, I call it a side hustle. It was a full-time job technically, but I had a contract with the Cincinnati Reds, Cincinnati Bengals sports network. And so I was able to build my agency here, close the RV dealership down over 6 months here, and then work in radio over here. And in that time, I just kept seeing so many businesses that sucked at marketing. Like one company was spending $10,000 a month on radio on one of the stations. They hadn't changed their commercial in 2 years. And I approached the guy and I said, you realized that if you had me as an agency of record for your business, I could buy this $10,000 for probably $8,000 because I know it better. The $8,000 from the station would cut me a 15% commission. So you just literally got a $2,000 savings. I get paid by the commission from the station's cut. So I would get, you still pay me, but you're going to have a net amount. And then I help you actually not suck at marketing. And so that was the beginning of what I probably shouldn't have done, but I probably should have done. I called it the mobile marketing director. I went around to a lot of business. I had a lot of connections in the business. And I went around the companies and basically spelled out, you're doing radio, TV, billboards, you're doing a bunch of stuff. You're not doing it very effectively. You don't know if it's working. What if you were, and I targeted companies that were spending 50 to 100 grand a year. What if that 50 grand a year you're spending, you could still spend it and get me to manage it for you and do all of it. And they were like, well, hell yeah. And so I called it the mobile marketing director, because I would say, hey, look, if you were to hire me, it cost you $200,000 to $300,000 a year. If you were to hire an average marketing person, it costs you 75 to 100. You don't want to do that. You're already spending 50. And so my target was like 50 to 100. And so if you had a $100,000 ad, you're doing all your marketing. I said, okay, great. 15 grand a year, 1,200 to 1,500 bucks a month, whatever the numbers were. And we'll manage exactly what you're doing. Plus we'll do your social media and your email marketing for free. And so that was kind of our lead. And at that point, none of them were doing social media. None of them were doing email marketing.
Right.
And so I built that. The problem I screwed up on is that when you sell a mobile marketing director, you're selling you.
Yeah.
And when I sold me, by the time I turned around about 6 years later, I had 30 plus clients, all different industries. I mean, literally we had like one of my clients to this day still he has 5 GNC nutrition stores, just called me today. We're doing an email for him today about the coronavirus stuff and their, all their different things they can market. I had a commercial construction client that's still a client. I've got a commercial hardware client still a client. We had a vacuum store. We had car dealers, RV dealers, boat dealers, restaurants. I mean, chiropractors, you name it. We had literally at our peak, when I met Billy Jean back in the summer of 2016, my peak was 34 clients from 31 different verticals. And the problem was none of them got the same thing. Yes, they all got social media posts. They all got email marketing. But this guy over here, we did his YouTube channel and his blog. This company over here, we did their website and their blog. This company over here, we did Facebook ads as well as their social media. This company, we bought radio. This company, we bought TV. This company, we did their negotiated the Pittsburgh Pirates program. And so it got to a point where there was no more Matt. Like I was turning down at my peak back in 13, 14, 15, 16. I was turning down about 100 to 200 grand a year in business.
Because you just couldn't do it because it was you.
Well, because I looked at it, and I looked at it a little wrong back then. It took me maturing and learning business differently. I looked at it, okay, if I take your deal, that's 20 grand a year. I don't have any more time. I'm making $250,000. I don't really give a shit. I mean, if I get 20,000 more, that nets down to 16 to 14 to 16 after taxes. Do I want to spend an extra 4 or 5 hours a week working on this? And my model back then, I met with every client every month. Right now, I've got one client I meet with once a month. Back then I met with every client. So you take 34 clients, and what I didn't mention is those 34 clients were more than that. The one guy was 9 restaurants, 9 GMs. The one guy was 45 car dealerships. So we were upwards of 200 locations. I dealt with about 100 decision makers on a weekly basis. And so it crushed me. When I met Billy Jean, I guess you've probably heard of Billy. When I met Billy in the summer of 16 and then did a one-to-one coaching session with in February of 2017 at TNC, he scratched his head. He's like, how are you doing all this? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, how many employees you got? I've got one, Ashley. She's been with me for 9 years now. And he's like, you have one person and you're doing all this. And I'm like, yeah, I just run hard and fast, brother. And that was when he told me.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's when he told me, he's like, I've got good news and bad news for you. Good news is you've got a niche in here you didn't realize, because I had created a restaurant program and we were running it with 9 restaurants. And to me, I didn't know what a program was. It was just, I saw a solution, a problem they had. I created a solution and it was killing it. And he's like, here's what you're going to do in the next 24 months. This is going to scare the shit out of you. You're going to fire all of these clients. You're going to keep a handful and you're going to scale this restaurant side. And I remember the first thing I said to him, which was kind of funny. I look back and I'm like, God, I was a dumbass. He's like, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're going to get a different brewery. It could be a lot of breweries. You're going to get a different brewery in every city. And I'm like, I'm not flying to every city. He's like, you don't have to fly. You just call them. Zoom call. I like, to me, that was foreign because every client I had, I met with every month. Well, and so at that point I did. I literally transitioned from when we had anywhere from 35 to 45 grand a month in reoccurring revenue with those clients. And at the time, restaurants, I was like 10 grand. And so over 24 months, I took that all the way down and then just took this all the way up.
Wow. Okay. So this is really powerful stuff. So the question that I think I already know the answer to is, of those initial 30-something clients, do you still have any of them?
Yeah, a lot of them. We have Dr. Dan just texted me today. So we've got
so where I'm going with this is, I think you mentioned something that I totally agree with, which I wholeheartedly agree everyone should focus on a niche, but I also think you can make a product that works across niches.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can use that as your filter. So most agencies that I know that really are known for a niche, they still have a couple of clients in other industries because it works within the product model they've built. So I
We
think
have
that's important to point out.
we have 8 clients that we don't do what we do for my restaurants with. We have 4 or 5 clients. One's a casino, one's a golf course, one's a campground that we position the same thing. That's what's kind of funny. Like my book, I got a book coming out that we're in the process of finishing called Sell More Beer. And I always tell clients, cover up the beer and sell more pizza, sell more steaks, sell more this. It's the same thing. And like the agencies I work with, I launched my agency program on accident. I wrote this book 2 years ago called Don't 86 Your Restaurant Sales. And my goal of the book, there's a membership site behind it. And my goal of the book was for restaurants to buy the membership site. And I did a whole beta where, hey, over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to build out my restaurant program, the ROI engine. I'm going to teach it to you one-to-one. Mm-hmm. In the back of my mind, I was like, you're going to suck at it, and then you're going to upgrade and hire us to be your agency. Well, good news, bad news. Bad news was no restaurants bought 2 restaurants out of 56 bought the beta for $500. 54 of them were agencies. And so I did like 30 grand in one night. That was pretty cool. But all the restaurants I later learned were like, I don't want to do marketing. We're paying you. So our agency grew by a lot of clients because the book lended credibility and they liked the concepts. Mm-hmm. But I had all these agencies buy it. Well, the agencies that started coming into the world, they were coming into this as I'm buying a restaurant program. And the hardest part I had for any of them is, dude, my tripwire for this restaurant program on Facebook and Instagram is comment, click here to get a buy one, get one free appetizer. Okay? Replace that with comment or click here when your oil change is due to get a buy one, get one free oil change, or a buy one, get one free round of golf, or a massage, or a chiropractic visit, or a teeth white. It's the same shit. You're using marketing attention to grow a database to drive sales. The problem is too many people, they just can't think that out there.
Yeah. So talk to me about getting rid of clients, because there are so many agencies that in theory agree I should shed some clients to get more in the niche that I want, but they're so scared to say goodbye to that revenue.
Yeah.
How'd that go for you?
Mine actually just happened through attrition. And it was kind of weird because it was hard to swallow early on. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized what was happening, I was like, okay, this is going to be easier than I thought. Because I've turned my focus back in the spring of 2017. I basically took my company and I put a Facebook post out there. And I made a Facebook post that basically called out people that were 40 to 50 years old who wanted a side hustle. And I got them. And I got 10 people, 20 people inquired, 10 people applied. We hired 5. And it was, you're working for free for 60 days. And the goal of that was they were going to work under my assistant, Ashley, who works for me. And they took everything off of her plate. It was kind of funny. I didn't tell her what I was doing. And she calls me like, I can tell about the cry. Like, am I getting fired? And I'm like, like, you just gave everything I do. I trained them. I'm like, oh, I forgot to tell you, you're gonna be doing this. And so she assigned all of that to them. She now became the account manager for my clients. I worked on the restaurant program. And so now what happened was my clients started seeing that they used to be my focus. Now my focus was over here. And it was weird because a lot of them were good friends. A couple of them, it just came to a point where they realized, man, you're in California every other week. You're busy. You're doing great stuff. They're still friends. But it got to a point also where back then I was like, hey, we're going to do all these marketing things. Now I was ancillary. Hey, we're doing Facebook. Here's our funnel. Here's what we're doing. You're either on or you're not. Mm-hmm. And so I did it slowly. I went from, 40 grand, like that part of the agency now I think is, 12 to 15 on an average month. The goal is to get it to 25 by the end of this year so that it covers a large portion of our agency payroll. And that's kind of my goal with that is that I got 3 parts of the agency. And my goal is, okay, this is going to be payroll. This is going to be overhead. This is going to be Matt. But it was definitely weird because early on, a couple of them that didn't want to, that we ended the relationship. It was mutual, but it was hard to swallow. It's like, you need me still. But I was also like, I don't need you and I can't service you.
Yeah, that's great stuff. I mean, that's a real a real sort of hurdle that I think agency owners that want to really scale are going to have to face at some point.
Yeah.
So that's cool to hear how you got through it. So as we mentioned, today's March 19th, right? The U.S. is really heading into the thick of the corona virus. And it's obviously going to hit a lot of small businesses hard, which is in turn going to hit a lot of marketing agencies really hard. You, as a veteran marketer, which you obviously are, I have the feeling that your clients are in a much better place than most people's.
Yeah.
And can you talk to me about preparing for disasters like this? Like, which businesses are set up to make it through and which aren't?
Yeah. So first I'll say this. I'm in a unique position from a credibility standpoint that I was in the boat and RV business and advertising business during September 11th. September 11th happened back in 01 and during 2008 collapse. I mean, September 11th, I was in radio advertising. I had a 4-year career in radio advertising. At the exact same time, we built our RV dealership from scratch. And so it was 2 years into my radio career, 2 years into the RV business. And both of those stopped pretty damn quick. Radio came back within about 6 to 8 weeks. The RV business came back in 2 to 4 months. And we had just finished an RV show, which was like the most depressing thing because we did an RV show that Saturday and Sunday before 9/11, 50 plus leads, a handful of hot deals, done. Like you couldn't get anybody on the phone to talk about buying anything on September 11th and the month or two after. So I've seen it. You can't prepare for it. You had no clue what was going to happen. Now there's certain things you can obviously prepare from your business, have good cash flow, have good profit and loss, have a line of credit set up in case of emergency, have some liquidity. And then in 2008, the same exact thing. We actually were set up terribly for a financial crisis because we were too heavy with banks. We had grown our dealership. We were doing $15 million a year in sales. We had a deal to sell our real estate for $3.4 million. We owed 1.8 on it. And so I was going to get a big fat check. We were closing May of 8. I started my agency that spring. I was doing part-time at the dealership, running my agency and working for the Reds and Bengals. May's closing didn't happen. It moved to June. June didn't happen. It moved to July. July of 07, we did $1.4 million. July of 08, we did 48 grand.
Wow.
And so it collapsed. There was nothing we really could have done. Now, what helped us that fall when because we had the business ready to close, this helped it. And it made us lose a shitload of money we weren't planning on using. But what helped us, honestly, was we did a bunch of email blasts. We're like, hey, economy crashed, huge sale, we're closing, our loss, your gain, come, and it drove a lot of sales. It helped us get out of it quicker and easier and less painful. But when you look at today with coronavirus, the one thing that is kind of wild, when it first started happening, I was like, oh my gosh. And everybody was joking about it. We all had every meme in the world with Corona beer and how it was going to impact Cinco de Mayo in next month. And,
right.
Everything like that. And then when it actually happened and you started seeing it, like school shut down, NBA canceled, March Madness, you're like, okay, well, when you've got an agency that is 99% restaurants and they're like, hey, every restaurant dine-in is gone. Right. And you're like, oh. And your clients are like, I had one client that had to lay off 80 people the next day. He had 80 servers.
Jeez.
Like, I have no use for him. Like, it's done. And he actually decided to close for a month. He's like, screw it. I'm going to close and go to the beach. And he's got the money to do it. So when we looked at it, what's positioned a lot of our clients were like, I'm in the middle of buying a house. I just signed the contract. We just canceled the house buy yesterday. The guy who owns the house is a friend of mine, called me. It's a big property. And he's like, hey, I want to make this happen still. I get why you're canceling. What if I give you 60 days? Instead of you having this huge amount down, you have $5,000 down. And in 60 days, we reconvene. And if it's good, it's good. I said, okay. So we did that. Well, in the middle of this, I'm looking at this like, okay, I'm buying a house, my restaurants. Are they going to cancel? I mean, what happens if this goes 30 to 60 days? I think we're positioned well. If it goes 90 to 120, I don't care how much of an asset Matt Plapp and my agency is to this restaurant. Yeah, a lot of them are going to be done. Like I had a restaurant the other day yesterday that did $400 in sales that traditionally does $2,400, and we haven't launched. We literally are in the middle of launching right now. When I say we, my team, I haven't touched anything. That's one of the cool parts about scaling is I built a team, and we have people in our company that do very specific stuff. and we're in the middle of launching, I think, gosh, probably, let me see how long this spreadsheet is. I got a Google sheet here called Coronavirus Special Project Tracking. So it's 125 lines long, rows long. And these are all the campaigns we're just launching today and tomorrow. And so we'll launch that program for that restaurant. It'll go out today and tomorrow. And by Monday, I'm pretty confident we'll have him back up in the $1,500 range because we've built that specific location has a 7,800 person database that we've built.
That's the point right there, right? If you as an agency are building the database for your clients, at least you have a shot at weathering a storm like this. Because whether you need to switch to, pickup model, whether you need to run discounted gift certificates, like whatever you need to do to get through, if you have a database, at least now you've got the shot. You can get in front of people, and you do a lot with Facebook Messenger too, right? So you're building email database and Facebook Messenger database.
Messenger, email, text. We may or may not have broken a few rules on Messenger this week. I mean, hey, we'll find out what happens. Can I share my screen and show you something that just tells this story?
Absolutely.
So this is my entire philosophy behind marketing. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So I call this the ROI engine marketing strategy. It's probably nothing rocket science. I literally have your visual of this in my folder, and it's a drawing I drew because I'm trying to explain to people. Most businesses over here on the left spend their advertising dollars and their efforts to drive sales. Let's do a radio campaign to drive sales. Let's do a direct mail campaign to drive sales. Let's buy a billboard to drive sales. In my mind, that's completely backwards. Every dollar and every effort you do should be spent to build your database.
Yes, exactly.
If I spend, for example, like our restaurant program, we use a lot of Facebook and Instagram that goes to Messenger. Well, we could be spending that same $1,000 a month on ads and marketing a buy one, get one free pizza. Or we could be spending it and marketing the buy one, get one free pizza. But the only way you get it is you join this program. So now I just spent the money to market it and to build the database. Then I use my database right away to push that out via text and email through HighLevel and through Messenger as well. And so that's where I think a lot of businesses really mess up. That's where a lot of our clients are positioned well. Yep. Is that, like, I've got one client right now who's almost 3 years into my restaurant program, 28,000 contacts, 2-location business. And every dollar we have spent on their behalf the entire time is right here. We never spend money to drive sales. Every dollar we spend 100% ties back into building a database.
Exactly. Because it's short-sighted to just go straight for the sale. Yes, you get cash in your hand right now, but that's it. Yep. When you build the database, you can keep going back to the list and selling over and over. Yep. So let's talk about your agency training now. It's called the ROI Experts?
It's the ROI engine.
Engine.
Yeah, it happened, as I mentioned, on complete accident. And I'll never forget the conversation. So when I met Billy Jean in 2016, I started doing coaching with Billy in 2017. And I did one-to-one coaching with him from sometime in 17 to almost early 2019. And I never realized, like, I'm in his Facebook groups. Like today, I did 2 videos in his Facebook group already today. None of them are selling. It's just, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Well, I've been doing those for years in his group for upwards of 4 years. And when you're not an admin of a group, you don't see video views. And so I had no clue that my videos were getting 5,000, 10,000 views in these groups. And so I had always kind of been that giving person. And when I did my launch for the book, he calls me. I'll never forget it because it was hilarious, because I had told my buddy Chris Patterson, who's also friends with Billy. We were both doing one-to-one with Billy. Chris has a huge agency down in Florida. And I called Chris. I'm like, dude, I can believe this. I did 56 people bought this. My goal was 25, but 54 are agencies. What the hell am I going to do? Like, I don't teach agencies. And at that point, I had been doing one-to-one stuff for Billy, for his agencies, but on a small level as a helping people out. And so the next morning, Billy calls me at like 8 a.m. Eastern time, which his time is 5 o'clock where he's at in Cali. And I'm like, dude, what are you calling me for? What time is it? He's like, oh, I'm like, is it 5 a.m. in Cali? He's like, yeah, I've been up playing Xbox all night or PlayStation or whatever, because he likes playing games. And he's like, hey, I heard from Chris, you killed it last night. Great job. And I'm like, but dude, I got 54 agencies, not restaurants. And he's like, can you service 400,000 restaurants? No. Well, then teach the agencies what you know. I'm like, okay. And so I literally just started teaching it. And the program originally was the same for restaurants and agencies. It was 6 modules, and it was the concept of why we do what we do, how to do it in Messenger, how to do it in email and text, how to do it with Zapier, and then the Google Sheet dashboard we have, which is what a lot of people know me from, and then what it looks like at the end. It was simple. Well, then come May, June of 2018, I've got all these people asking me questions. Well, Matt, when you land a client, how do you launch a program? When a client cancels, how do you unwind it? How do you get a contract signed? How do you negotiate? How do you find clients? How do you nurture? I mean, literally hundreds of topics that weren't in there because restaurant owners were in there. Because at that point, I got up to like 20 or 30 restaurants in there. And so I ended up creating a separate program, and it's only an agency program. There's a few restaurants in there, but 99% of it's agencies. And the concept is I'm teaching them how to build a local agency. And I'll put that differentiator in there. I'm not going to teach you tactics that enable you to sit on your ass in your mom's basement and cold email everybody. The tactics I teach, I call it a local agency program, because I'm of the belief that you cannot launch a national agency like I have unless you've learned how to do it and figured out how to do it locally. Unless you've had those conversations, unless you've had those 50 meetings a month, you've had all those things happen. You know, it's like today when Greg, my client that owns the GNC stores, called me. He's like, hey, I sent you an email. I want to send it out to our database. And I looked at it. I said, okay, cool. And it's funny because every client, all my current clients communicate with support. They don't mess with me. But I've got a handful of my old clients that still I'm their good buddy. I'm their golf buddy. And so even if he knows I don't do this stuff, he still emails it to me and says, hey, email this to support. And I'm like, why don't you? And so I call him and we're having a conversation. And I go, I said, Greg, I got an idea. He goes, yeah. I said, GNC stores, you have things that help boost the immune system, right? Yeah. Why don't you go get 5 of those items and 5 to 7, like ideal 7. I've got my gym I have has an at-home workout schedule because the gym's closed. Why don't we put together an email campaign the next 7 days that every day an email goes out with a product you sell on your shelves that's immune boosting that can help you be healthier, and an at-home workout since you probably can't go to your gym since every damn gym is closed in this region. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, that's great. Well, I don't learn that if I've never had a local agency, if I've never sat in meetings with business owners and brainstormed their issues. And so that's why I always hammer home my local agency is the fact of you've got to learn that stuff. You've got to learn how to find clients, learn how to treat clients, learn how to onboard clients, learn how to lose clients, learn how to close deals, learn how to save deals. You've got to learn how to go through crisis. You got to learn how to go through everything. When you get to that point, then you can have conversations with people on a national scale. I have conversations now with restaurant owners, and it cracks me up because they tell me what somebody else told them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, my God, Matt, you're a different level. And I'm like, I know, because that guy's been doing this 4 months and he thinks he's a Facebook ads expert. I've been doing this 12 years and I am an expert. I don't like calling that word, but I know enough. So the program teaches the foundations of how to start an agency. We have all of our products, of course. Everything that we do in our agency is mimicked in the course. All of our messenger bots, all of our high-level stuff, all of our things with texting, email, Facebook.
What do you guys use for the bots? Do you use ManyChat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And so everything's in there.
I think that's a really great point, Matt, and it's a cool differentiator because I agree with you, especially what I see a lot in the community is young agencies. They're like, I want a niche. I picked my niche. It's this. But how do I go about building my product set? And it's like you're saying, if you haven't sat next to your local chiropractor, if you haven't sat next to your local whatever it is that you're trying to do and talk to them about their problems, that's how you build product sets, right? You're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that you struggle with that. Well, I can solve that by this. And there's a piece of your new product. And until you do that with your local community, get to know somebody in their business intimately, that's how you build what's going to scale. And that's pretty cool.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I just had an email from a client, Patrick, literally popped on my screen telling me thank you. He's got 11 restaurants and we've got things rolling out big time for him right now. And exactly what you just said happened. I met Patrick the fall let me think what year this was. The fall of 2017, I met Patrick. He was a referral from the commercial cleaner in my B&I chapter.
Okay.
Barry said, hey, I want you to meet Patrick. He has 2 restaurants now. He's opening 2 more. We sat down and met. I didn't pitch anything. I didn't sell anything. I asked questions. And he told me here's the 2 restaurants I have now, at Dickey's Barbecue, at Zoop. I'm opening up a rapid fired pizza and a Guthrie's chicken. We talked about him. He's like, I think your program, what Barry has told me, would be cool with those. Can you show me some tests? I said, yeah, let's answer some questions first. So we talked. And then I showed him it real nonchalantly. No sales pitch. Even though I already have pricing, I have I never do that unless it's like very, very specific meeting. But I just, here's how it looks like on the phone. So we get to talking, and I come back the next week, and we're talking about something else because he's got a sandwich shop that's not doing well. And he's like, yeah, I've got this problem. I said, what do you guys do? And he goes, well, our biggest opportunity here is offsite catering. We deliver every Tuesday and Wednesday. That office building across the street is a giant building called CDC. And I said, what's the problem? He goes, well, we have to know what we're making before we go. And so we have a thing that, hey, every day by 10:30, have your order submitted online. And at 11:30, we bring the food there. And every week we show up and 20 people go, oh, shit, I didn't know Zoop was coming today. And he's like, I wish we had a way to fix that. And this is where it comes to knowing, I always tell people, sell something, then figure it out. And I'm like, well, Patrick, and my knowledge of texting back then on automation was 0. But I knew Zapier. And I said, what if you got these people to text a code in to opt into a texting program, and then every week, Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, a text went out and said, hey, reminder, we're there at 11:30. Click here to place your order. He's like, you can do that? I'm like, no, but I'll figure it out. And I was honest with him. And I said, dude, I know enough to be scary. I can figure it out. He goes, well, cool. Will you look at it? I said, cool. I went back within a day, had it figured out. I didn't know what Twilio was. And this is, 3 years ago, I guess. Didn't know what the hell Twilio was. Knew a shitload about Zapier because I built a lot of stuff in Zapier, but I always just did email. And the texting platform that I used back then, it just hooked up. Somebody else hooked it up for me, and it did a bunch of voodoo magic. I know how to do it. And so I went back, figured it out, went back to his office the next week and said, check this out. Text this code in, boom. Replies back, you're going to get a reminder. I had the reminder set for 1 minute instead of next week. Boom, he gets it. He's like, oh my God, this is gold. How much? I go, I don't know. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it took me a shitload of time, which you can't afford to pay me because I shouldn't have probably been messing with it. But the reason I did it between you and I is that the 2 franchises you're signing up with in 3 months, because you have a Rapid Fire and Guthrie's coming on board, represent, between cross ownership of a couple other brands, about 300 locations. If I can help you here, I'm sure you'll like me more in 3 months, and you'll probably hire me for that pizza place. And if you hire me there, it'll help. Today, from me, I charged him $100, by the way. I said, oh, $100. He's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit. That's not why I'm doing it. And so I did that for $100. We ran that program, actually ran until about a month ago. We just got, there was the way that business changed, we didn't do it. So it ran for a while at $100 a month. But right now, I think, God, if I had to lowball it, I've probably got anywhere from 600 to 800 grand in annual revenue that came out from him.
Sure.
That he said, hey, great, in 2 months, we're going to open up Rapid Fire. And you're going to be, we're going to run your program there. We did it. The marketing director for Rapid Fire called me up 2 days later and said, what am I seeing here? How come there's 2,000 comments on this Facebook post? How did you do that? And then 2 days later, we had 3 more locations, and then 3 days, it just blossomed. And so that doesn't happen if you're a wannabe marketer trying to be national. That's the part that drives me crazy the most. And it took me a while to realize, is I kept having these people that would buy my program, and they would come in, they'd pay $2,000-$3,000, let's say $3,000 in 3 months because the upfront and then the monthly, and then they would cancel. And I personally reach out to people. My assistant gets a cancellation. I go, I'm going to find out what's going on. I'll call them. Hey, what's up? Why are you canceling? And I always preface it. The $99, I don't really care. I spent that on food yesterday. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about why you spent $3,000 and now you're gone.
Right.
And they all say, oh, well, it's a restaurant program. I'm not doing restaurants anymore. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you starting an agency? Yeah, I'm dealing with auto repair. Okay, instead of a buy one, get one free pizza, buy one, get one free oil change. They're like, oh, well then a lot of times once I had these conversations, about 80% of them thought there was some magic that they were going to buy my program, build it, send out 100 cold emails, get 70 appointments, get 30 deals, and be on autopilot. And I'm like, that shit ain't happening, bro. If that shit was happening, Matt would be driving a Bugatti.
Well, you bring up a really good point that I want to reiterate before we wrap up here, which is you were honest. And I feel like so many young marketers feel like they have to fake it. Yep. And they're going out there, I'm the expert, blah, blah, blah. And that often backfires, because what I know is true is when you're honest and you say what you said, which is, I don't know, but I'll figure it out for you. Yeah. Then you're the guy that's on their side. And even if that didn't work, they were like, he's on my team. He wants to help me. He's going to figure something out that's going to work. I'm going to keep paying that guy because he's on my team. Not like, wait a minute, you pitched me as the expert and it didn't work. You're a phony. You suck. Get out of here. I'm done with you. It's a whole different.
You've got no leash. It's like what I tell the agencies I work with that are in my program. Like, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to email my assistant and buy 20 books for $5 a piece. They're normally 25, but for whatever, I think we pay like $5 or $6 for them. It might be $10. I don't know. Email her, buy 20 bucks. Walk in. I can promise you no marketing person has ever walked in and said, hey, I've got this guy as a coach. Go to Amazon. You'll see it. Go to YouTube, Facebook. He's got thousands of videos. He speaks on stages. He's in conferences. He's got 2 books, 2 more coming out. He's got a kick-ass restaurant marketing program. I'm learning. I want to help you do this for your restaurant, but I'll be honest, I don't know how to do it completely. He knows everything. I'm learning it. Mm-hmm. If you have that type of candid conversation and say, you know what, normally this is what we're going to charge for this. It's going to be close to $1,000 a month. I'm looking for 5 case study clients, looking for a barbecue, a pizza, a chicken, a burger, and a steak. I'll do it for $300 a month. I'm young. I don't have a whole lot of bills. Exactly. I live in my mom's basement. I drive a shitty car you see out front. If you have that type of conversation, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I dig this, because everybody else is walking in. I use the analogy all the time. Most marketing people are single dudes walking into a bar and asking every girl to have sex, period. That's what business. You walk into every business, excuse my analogy if I offend anybody, but you walk into every business and you go, hey, I'm Matt Plapp. Here's my program. Here's why you need it. You don't even ask a question. Yeah. You've skipped introduction. You've skipped dating. You've skipped courting them. You've skipped everything to have a baby.
You skipped, let me buy you a drink. Let me give you some value.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt, I love it. So where do people go if they want to learn from you of how to build a local agency that then can scale? Where do they go online? How do they connect with you?
If you go to mattplapp.com, that'll take you to my website, and there's a link up there for agencies. The URL for the agencies, I believe, this might sound dumb, but I think it's mattplapplive.com. We had some changes of URLs in the past 6 months that I had so many damn landing pages and websites that we finally consolidated. There's now mattplapp.com. There's mptv.watch, which is my new podcast launching March 31st. And then there's my agency site for our restaurants, which is roiexperts.net. But all of them have a link to the agency part. But you know, we allow 4 people in a month. We actually are closing it, I think April 2nd or something, for like 6 weeks to kind of just, slow down because we got so many other things going on in our agency. But it's 1-to-1. We do 1-to-1 onboarding calls with myself, with my 5 people on my team. We have what we call a done for you aspect, where you get all of our high level stuff, all of our mini chat stuff. You get a trifold brochure. You get case studies with your graphics. I mean, you get everything. And I always tell, hey, as long as you reference these aren't my results. These are Matt Plapp's results and the ROI experts, but I'm learning it, then you can use it. And so it's a cool opportunity, and it's something that we'll probably keep running it for the next 4 to 6 months. And my goal is by the end of this year to just scale it down and have it to where it's really, really, really small group.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, then get in while you can. So that's Matt Plapp, and that's plapp.com.
Yep. And there, if you look, you'll see me online. Everybody thinks it's a fist bump. It's an MP.
Well, it's both, right?
It's both. So, if you look online, Matt Plapp, you'll see my Facebook page has that on there. You can look me up on YouTube, mattplapp.com, LinkedIn, all sorts of places.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being on the show, Matt.
Hey, appreciate it, Jason.
We'll see everybody else in the next episode.